Imagine waking up 90 days from now feeling different, not just in what you've accomplished, but in who you've become. Confidence, discipline, and momentum aren't distant dreams. They are the direct results of what you do starting today. But let's be clear, this is not about quick fixes. It's about a shift in mindset, a commitment to small, consistent actions that over time redefine your life. Most people set goals, but very few succeed. Why? Because they focus on what they want, not why they want it. When the excitement fades and obstacles appear, logic won't keep you going, purpose will. So ask yourself, why does this transformation matter to me? Get that answer right and you'll unlock a level of resilience you didn't know you had. Success is never about one big leap. It's about the small, unglamorous steps you take daily, the tiny choices. Do you wake up early or hit snooze? Do you spend an hour learning or scrolling? These decisions compound, shaping your future before you even realize it. The rule is simple. Make today 1% better than yesterday. At the end of 3 months, it won't be about reaching a single milestone. It will be about becoming the person who can sustain and build on success for the rest of your life. The real win isn't achieving a goal, it's embracing the process of growth itself. So I ask you this, are you ready to take control of your future? The next 90 days will pass anyway. The only question is, will you be in the same place or will you be transformed? Most people set goals, fewer people achieve them, and even fewer sustain their success. Why? Because they focus on what they want, not why they want it. Think about it. At the start of every new year, millions of people set resolutions. They say, I want to lose weight, or I want to make more money, or I want to be more disciplined. But by February, the excitement is gone, the motivation fades, the gym membership goes unused, the morning routine is abandoned, the financial plan is left in a forgotten notebook. It's not because they lack the ability to succeed. It's not even because they didn't want it badly enough. It's because they never took the time to answer the most important question. Why does this matter to me? The difference between people who transform their lives and those who don't isn't intelligence, talent, or even luck. It's clarity. The people who create lasting change know exactly why they're doing it. Their motivation isn't just surface-level desire, it's something deeper, something personal, something powerful enough to keep them going when everything in them wants to quit. Think about the last time you really stuck with something difficult. Maybe it was a job, a workout routine, or even a tough personal challenge. What kept you going? It wasn't just discipline, it was purpose. Maybe it was the responsibility to provide for your family. Maybe it was proving something to yourself. Maybe it was the fear of going back to the way things used to be. Whatever it was, that deep emotional connection is what fueled you. Now imagine if you could tap into that kind of drive every single day. Imagine if every action, every choice, every sacrifice was backed by an unshakable reason. That's the kind of clarity that creates unstoppable momentum. Let's take 2 people as an example. Both of them set the goal of waking up at 5 a.m. to work on their dreams. The first person does it because they read an article about how successful people wake up early. The second person does it because they've seen their parents struggle their entire lives and they refuse to let that be their future. The first person is relying on external motivation. The second person has something deeper, a personal, emotional reason that makes quitting not an option. Who do you think is going to last longer? We live in a world that glorifies results, but results don't happen without clarity of purpose. If you want to lose weight, it's not enough to say, I want to look good. Why do you want to look good? Maybe it's because you want to feel confident for the first time in your life. Maybe it's because you want to have the energy to play with your kids. Maybe it's because you refuse to let your health hold you back from the life you know you deserve. If you want to start a business, it's not enough to say, I want to be successful. Why do you want to be successful? Maybe you want to prove to yourself that you can create something meaningful. Maybe you want the freedom to control your time. Maybe you want to build a legacy that outlives you. And here's the truth. If your why isn't strong enough, the first challenge will break you. Because challenges will come. It's a guarantee. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, when progress feels slow, when you wonder if any of this is even worth it. If your reason is weak, you'll quit. You'll find excuses. You'll tell yourself, maybe I'll start again next week. But when your why is powerful, when it's rooted in something that truly matters to you, You push through. You keep going. You find a way. That's why the first step in any transformation, whether it's a 3-month success plan or a lifelong journey, is not action, it's clarity. It's sitting down and asking yourself, what am I really working toward? And why does it matter to me? Once you have that level of clarity, something amazing happens. Your excuses become weaker. Your discipline strengthens. Your focus sharpens. Because now success isn't just a vague goal, it's a mission. And missions don't get abandoned just because it's hard. This is why some people seem unstoppable. It's not because they have more time, more talent, or more resources. It's because they've connected their actions to something deeply meaningful. They aren't just chasing a goal, they're fulfilling a purpose. So before you start any 3-month success plan, before you commit to a new routine, before you take the first step toward transformation, do this one thing. Find your why. Write it down. Read it every morning. Remind yourself of it when things get tough. Because when you know why you're doing something, you don't just set goals, you accomplish them. You don't just work hard, you work with passion. You don't just change your habits, you change your entire life. Success isn't built on one grand moment of inspiration. It's not about massive leaps or overnight changes. It's built on small, deliberate actions, repeated consistently over time. The truth is, real transformation doesn't come from intensity. It comes from discipline. It comes from showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it, even when the results aren't immediate, even when no one else is watching. Most people fail not because they lack talent or ability, but because they underestimate the power of consistency. They believe success is about big moves, life-altering decisions, and dramatic changes. So they start strong, pushing themselves hard, making extreme commitments, expecting instant results. But the moment progress slows down, the excitement fades. When they don't see immediate success, they stop. They assume it's not working. They look for another strategy, another method, another shortcut. And in doing so, they miss the real secret. Success isn't about intensity, it's about persistence. Imagine a person who wants to get in shape. On day 1, they're motivated. They go to the gym, work out for 2 hours, and leave feeling great. They push themselves hard for the first week, maybe even 2, but then life happens. They get busy, they get tired, and they start skipping workouts. Eventually, they stop altogether. Why? Because they relied on motivation, not consistency. Now imagine another person who takes a different approach. Instead of going all in on day 1, they commit to just 30 minutes of exercise a day. Nothing extreme, nothing overwhelming, just a small, manageable step. At first, the progress is slow, almost invisible, but they keep showing up. Day after day, week after week, and something happens. It becomes a habit, a lifestyle, a part of who they are, and over time, the results start to compound. This is the power of small daily wins. The reality is the human brain is wired to resist big changes. When you try to do too much too fast, your mind fights back. That's why extreme diets fail. That's why people struggle to wake up at 5 a.m. after years of sleeping in. That's why new habits often don't stick. Because change feels overwhelming, but when you focus on small daily actions, your brain doesn't resist as much. The changes feel manageable, sustainable, and before you know it, they become second nature. Think about a tiny drop of water falling on a rock. One drop doesn't seem like much, but over time, as those drops keep falling, they start to wear down even the hardest surface. That's what small, consistent actions do. They create lasting impact, even when it's not immediately visible. The key is to redefine success. Instead of measuring success by immediate results, measure it by consistency. Ask yourself, did I show up today? Did I make even a tiny bit of progress? If the answer is yes, you're winning. Most people give up because they're focused on the outcome instead of the process. They step on the scale every day hoping to see a drastic change. They look at their bank account expecting overnight wealth. They write a few pages of a book and feel discouraged that they're not a bestseller author yet. But real success isn't about the destination. It's about becoming the person who can sustain success. And that happens through daily habits, not sudden breakthroughs. Take the example of a writer. If they commit to writing 1 page a day, they might not feel like they're making much progress. But in a year, that's 365 pages, an entire book. A musician who practices for 20 minutes a day might not feel like they're improving, But over time, those short sessions add up to mastery. A business owner who spends 30 minutes a day learning new skills might not see immediate results, but in a few years, they'll be miles ahead of where they started. The problem is, most people don't stick with it long enough to see the results. They expect transformation to be quick and dramatic. But success is like pushing a giant flywheel. At first, it barely moves. It feels heavy, slow, frustrating. But if you keep pushing, something incredible happens. It starts to gain momentum. Eventually, it spins faster and faster, and suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes effortless. That's why small daily wins matter, because each one is a push on that flywheel. Each one builds momentum. Each one moves you closer to your goal, even if you can't see it yet. So the real question isn't how big is my progress. The real question is, did I do something today that moves me forward? Because here's the truth. Every choice you make is a vote for the person you want to become. Every small action reinforces your identity. If you write one sentence today, you're a writer. If you exercise for 5 minutes, you're an athlete. If you invest a little money, you're building wealth. And the more you repeat those small actions, the stronger your identity becomes. Eventually, it stops being something you do and starts being who you are. That's why successful people don't rely on motivation. Motivation is temporary. It fades. What they rely on is habits, systems, routines. They set themselves up so that success isn't a choice. It's the natural outcome of their daily actions. This is why the 3-month success plan works. Because in the beginning, it's not about seeing massive results. It's about proving to yourself that you can show up, that you can stay consistent, that you can commit to small daily wins. And once that becomes your standard, success is inevitable. So if you want to transform your life, don't focus on doing something massive. Focus on doing something small every single day. Because those small wins, they are the foundation of everything great you will ever achieve. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it also doesn't take forever. It takes about 90 days to build momentum, to create real change, to shift from who you were to who you're becoming. The problem is, most people never make it that far. They start strong, they get excited, they feel the rush of beginning something new, but then they hit resistance. And that's where most people quit. Not because they're incapable, not because their goals are unrealistic, but because they don't understand how transformation actually works. The first 30 days are all about laying the foundation. This is where excitement is at its peak. Everything feels new, fresh, and full of potential. You start waking up earlier, you go to the gym, you work on your passion project. And in the beginning, it feels great. Your brain is flooded with motivation, and you're convinced that this time, things will be different. But the mistake people make in the first month is believing that motivation will last forever. It won't. Motivation is like a spark. It gets the fire going, but it's not enough to keep it burning. That's why people who rely on motivation eventually burn out. The key in the first month isn't just starting, it's preparing for the dip that's coming. Because at some point, usually around weeks 3 or 4, the excitement wears off, the progress slows down, the results don't seem as dramatic. And this is the first breaking point where people either push through or fall back into old habits. The second month is where real transformation begins, but it's also where most people give up. This is the phase where it stops feeling fun and starts feeling like work. You wake up and the last thing you want to do is stick to your plan. You start making excuses. You tell yourself, maybe I need a break, or maybe this just isn't working. This is where doubt creeps in, where things feel stagnant, and this is where most people convince themselves that they're not making progress. But the truth is, this is exactly where progress happens. Because real change isn't just about results, it's about identity. In the second month, you're not just following a plan anymore, you're rewiring your brain, teaching yourself discipline, proving to yourself that you are someone who follows through. And that process is uncomfortable, it's supposed to be, because everything in you wants to go back to what's familiar. Think about it. If you've spent years sleeping in, eating poorly, procrastinating, or avoiding challenges, then of course your brain is going to resist change. It doesn't know this new version of you yet. It doesn't trust that this time is different. So it fights back. It craves comfort, familiarity, the path of least resistance. But here's the secret. If you can make it through the second month, everything shifts. Because by the third month, something powerful happens. Momentum kicks in. What once felt difficult starts to feel normal. The habits that took so much effort in the beginning become second nature. You wake up early not because you force yourself to, but because it feels natural. You go to the gym not because you have to, but because you actually want to. The things that once felt like work now feel like part of who you are. This is why so many people never experience real transformation. They never make it to month 3. They quit in the middle, convinced that nothing is happening, when in reality they were just a few weeks away from their breakthrough. The third month isn't about forcing yourself anymore. It's about stepping into your new identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally does the things you once had to struggle with. And when you reach this point, everything changes. Think about a plane taking off. In the beginning, it requires an enormous amount of energy just to lift off the ground. The engines are working at full capacity, fighting gravity, using the most fuel. But once it reaches altitude, once it finds momentum, everything becomes smoother. It requires less effort, less resistance. It moves with ease. That's exactly how transformation works. The first 30 days are the takeoff. The second 30 days are the turbulence. And the final 30 days, that's where you reach cruising altitude. That's where you finally start to feel the rewards of everything you've been working toward. And the best part, by the end of 90 days, you're not just someone who set a goal, you're someone who follows through. Someone who doesn't just dream, but actually does. That's why the 90-day rule is so powerful. It's not an arbitrary timeline. It's the amount of time it takes for your brain to rewire itself, for your body to adapt, for your habits to shift from something you do to something you are. But most people never experience this because they expect results too quickly. They think success should happen in a week, and when it doesn't, they get frustrated. But if you understand that the real magic happens in the third month, you'll stick with it long enough to actually see it. This is why so many successful people talk about consistency, not because they love discipline for the sake of it, but because they know that the real reward isn't just the result, it's becoming the kind of person who can sustain success. Anyone can get excited for a few weeks. Anyone can push through for a short period of time. But those who understand the 3-month rule know that transformation isn't just about starting strong. It's about staying long enough to see the shift. So whatever goal you have, whatever change you're trying to make, give it 90 days. Commit fully, push through the hard days, expect the dip, anticipate the moments where you'll want to quit. Because if you can make it through that middle phase, you'll come out on the other side stronger, more disciplined, more confident than you've ever been. And once you reach that point, success stops being something you chase. It becomes something you naturally attract. Because you're no longer just someone trying to succeed. You've become the kind of person who does. Fear is the silent killer of dreams. It's the invisible barrier that keeps people stuck, trapped in the same cycle, never daring to step beyond what feels safe and familiar. Fear whispers lies, convincing you that you're not ready, that you're not capable, that failure is something to be avoided at all costs. But the truth is, success isn't about avoiding fear. It's about moving forward in spite of it. Because if you wait until fear disappears before you take action, you'll be waiting your entire life. Every person who has ever achieved something great has felt fear. Every entrepreneur who started a business, every athlete who stepped onto the world stage, every leader who made an impact, they all faced moments of doubt, of uncertainty, of fear, so strong it could have paralyzed them. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't the absence of fear, it's their response to it. Fear doesn't mean stop, fear means go. It means you're about to step into something bigger than yourself. It means you're on the edge of growth. The problem is most people let fear control them. They let it dictate their choices, their actions, their potential. They choose comfort over risk, even when comfort is the very thing keeping them from the life they truly want. They settle for less, not because they aren't capable of more, but because the thought of failing is more painful than the thought of staying the same. But what if failure wasn't something to be feared? What if failure was actually the key to success? The reality is, failure isn't the opposite of success, it's a part of it. Every successful person has failed more times than they can count. They've made mistakes, faced rejection, fallen short, but instead of seeing failure as proof that they weren't good enough, they saw it as feedback, as a lesson, as a necessary step on the path to success. Because the only way to truly fail is to stop trying. Think about a baby learning to walk. They don't just stand up one day and start running. They stumble, they fall, they get back up over and over again. And never once do they think, maybe walking just isn't for me. They keep going. Because failure isn't seen as failure, it's just part of the process. But somewhere along the way, we lose that mindset. We start associating failure with shame, with embarrassment, with a reason to give up. We start believing that if we don't succeed immediately, it must mean we're not meant to succeed at all. And that belief is what stops people from ever reaching their full potential. If you want to transform your life in 90 days, you have to reframe your relationship with fear and failure. Instead of seeing fear as a stop sign, see it as a signal that you're headed in the right direction. Instead of avoiding failure, embrace it as proof that you're taking action. Because the people who never fail, they're the ones who never try. There's a powerful exercise that can shift the way you see fear. Take a moment and ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Really think about it. What's the absolute worst case scenario if you fail? Maybe it's embarrassment, maybe it's a financial setback, maybe it's rejection. But now ask yourself, if that happened, could I recover? The answer is almost always yes. The fear of failure is almost always worse than the reality of it. And when you truly understand that failure won't destroy you, it loses its power over you. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail fast, fail often, and fail forward. They take risks, they learn, they adapt. They don't waste time overanalyzing or waiting for the perfect moment. They act knowing that even if they fail, they're one step closer to success. Think about Thomas Edison, who failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Think about Oprah Winfrey, who was fired from her first television job. Think about Walt Disney, who was told he lacked creativity. If they had let fear stop them, the world would be a very different place. The same principle applies to your life. Whatever goal you have, whether it's starting a business, getting in shape, writing a book, or changing your mindset, there will be moments of fear. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when you feel like quitting. But those are the exact moments when you must push forward. Because on the other side of fear is everything you've ever wanted. One of the best ways to overcome fear is to take action before you feel ready. Because the truth is you will never feel ready. There will always be a reason to wait, always an excuse to put it off. But if you let fear dictate your actions, you'll wake up years from now in the exact same place, wondering what could have been. The people who achieve their goals aren't the ones who feel fearless. They're the ones who act despite their fear. Fear is only powerful if you let it be. If you stare at it too long, it grows. But if you step into it, if you lean into the discomfort, if you take action even when you're afraid, something incredible happens. Fear shrinks. It loses its grip. And you realize that it was never as big as you thought it was. So the next time you feel afraid, don't retreat. Don't wait for the fear to go away. Move toward it. Step into it. Because fear is nothing more than an illusion, a test to see how badly you want the life you say you do. And if you're willing to face it, to embrace failure, to take action even when it's uncomfortable, that's when transformation happens. That's when you become unstoppable. If you commit to this 90-day success plan, you will face fear. You will face moments of doubt, of struggle, of wanting to quit. But if you understand that fear is a sign that you're growing, that failure is not the end, but a necessary step towards success, you will keep going. And if you keep going, you will succeed. Because the real difference between those who live extraordinary lives and those who don't isn't that they were never afraid. It's that they never let fear decide their future. The final and most important step in transforming your life in 90 days is understanding that success isn't something you achieve, it's something you sustain. Too many people see success as a finish line, a destination that they reach, only to realize that once they get there, they don't know what to do next. They hit a goal, celebrate for a moment, and then slowly slip back into old habits. That's because true transformation isn't about reaching a milestone. It's about becoming the kind of person who can sustain success for a lifetime. This is where most people fall short. They push hard for 90 days, they make incredible progress, But the moment they stop being intentional, the momentum starts to fade. They believe that because they've built good habits, those habits will just stick. But success, like anything valuable, requires maintenance. Just like physical fitness, where stopping your workouts for a few months will result in lost strength and endurance, mental and emotional fitness require ongoing effort. The key to sustaining success is not just about working hard, but about creating an environment where success becomes the default. You must structure your life in a way that supports the person you've become. If you've spent the last 3 months waking up early, working on your goals, and prioritizing personal growth, you need to build systems that ensure you don't slip back into old patterns the moment the initial excitement wears off. One of the most powerful ways to do this is by surrounding yourself with the right people. There's a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it couldn't be more true. If you're surrounded by people who are constantly growing, striving, and pushing themselves, you'll naturally be pulled in that direction. But if you're surrounded by negativity, by people who make excuses, by those who are comfortable staying stagnant, it's only a matter of time before that mindset rubs off on you. This is why so many people struggle to maintain success after an initial breakthrough, because they haven't changed their environment. They return to the same routines, the same influences, the same habits that kept them stuck in the first place. If you want long-term success, you must protect your progress. That means setting boundaries, being intentional about the people you let into your life, and consistently seeking out those who challenge you to be better. Another crucial element of sustaining success is developing a strong personal standard. Too often, people rely on external motivation, on deadlines, on accountability, on temporary bursts of inspiration. But the most successful individuals don't need outside pressure to stay disciplined. They hold themselves to a standard that doesn't waver, no matter the circumstances. It's not about being perfect. It's about refusing to lower your expectations for yourself. This means committing to your habits even when no one is watching. It means doing the work even when you don't feel like it. It means recognizing that success isn't just about what you do when you're motivated, but about who you choose to be every single day. When you have a personal standard that demands excellence, you don't need external rewards to keep going. You do it because it's who you are. Sustaining success also requires regular reflection and adaptation. The goals you set today might not be the goals you need a year from now. Growth is a continuous process, and the moment you stop evaluating where you're headed, you risk becoming stagnant. That's why the most successful people schedule time for self-reflection. They ask themselves, what's working, what's not? Where do I need to adjust? They don't just set goals once and forget about them. They consistently refine their vision, making sure they are always moving in the right direction. This is where many people go wrong. They achieve something significant, and instead of setting a new challenge, they become complacent. They start coasting, assuming that success will maintain itself. But nothing stays the same. Either you're growing or you're declining. And if you're not actively pushing yourself forward, you're slowly slipping backward. To prevent this, build a habit of constant improvement. Challenge yourself to keep learning, to keep setting bigger goals, to keep evolving into the next version of yourself. The moment you start thinking you've made it is the moment you stop growing. Success isn't about reaching a peak, it's about continuously climbing, always looking for the next way to improve, always staying hungry for progress. Another essential element of long-term success is contribution. True fulfillment doesn't come from what you achieve, it comes from what you give. The happiest, most successful people in the world aren't just focused on their own goals, they're focused on how they can make a difference in the lives of others. When you shift your focus from personal success to impact, you create a sense of purpose that keeps you driven even when things get difficult. This could mean mentoring someone who's just starting out. It could mean sharing your knowledge, helping others grow, or using your success to create opportunities for those around you. When you make success about more than just yourself, you gain a level of fulfillment that can't be taken away no matter how many challenges you face. The final key to sustaining success is mastering your mindset. No matter how much progress you make, there will always be obstacles. There will always be challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt. But the people who continue to grow year after year are the ones who refuse to let those challenges define them. They see adversity as an opportunity to grow, not as an excuse to stop. This means developing resilience, the ability to keep moving forward